Hello everyone, I'm MSL and this is lecture 3 or the third lecture or third session within chapter 20 of the Advanced Medical Science Liaison and Medical Monitor Certification course program by CCRPS. As the chapter 20 is about the specialized monitoring techniques and the third topic within this chapter, or the third session, the topic of the third session is about the monitoring of rare disease in pediatric trials. Introduction. Rare disease and pediatric clinical trials represent some of the most challenging and essential areas of clinical research. As rare diseases affecting only a small fraction of the population often lack extensive pre-existing data, making every enrolled subject critical. Pediatric trials further complicate the landscape by involving vulnerable populations, children, who require special protections under ethical and regulatory frameworks. So both as of on regard rare disease clinical trials and pediatric clinical trials, both of them are very challenging and considered to be the most challenging and essential areas of clinical research. Key points. We'll start with definition and importance of monitoring. So definition, as monitoring in clinical trials involves systematic oversight to ensure that trial activities comply with regulatory guidelines, protect patient welfare, and generate high-quality data. The importance including patient safety, vulnerable populations, such as children and individuals with rare diseases, require additional protections to mitigate risks. So, vulnerable populations such as children. So, children, as for example, as of considered in clinical research, vulnerable populations, and also another example, individuals with rare diseases, require additional protections to mitigate to control risks. Example in pediatric and monitoring systemic side effects. So example in pediatric clinical research about patient safety. So systemic side effects of a novel biologic for juvenile idiopathic arthritis. Example for rare disease clinical trials, regularly assessing cardiac safety in a trial for Duchenne muscular dystrophy. As Duchenne muscular dystrophy is considered one of the examples that is very much applicable into the definition and categorization of rare diseases. Here's a summarized diagram on unveiling the dimensions of clinical trial monitoring. As here, monitoring in clinical trials, we have regulatory compliance, patient welfare, and data quality. Another importance is data quality and integrity, as precise and complete data collection is especially critical for rare disease studies with limited participants. Example of rare disease, ensuring accurate tracking of metabolic markers in trials targeting inborn errors of metabolism. Ethical oversight, another importance, as trials necessitate strict adherence to ethical standards, including informed consent from parents or guardians in pediatric trials. Example in pediatric, verifying proper documentation of parental consent and assent from older pediatric participants. Regulatory compliance trials must follow global regulatory guidelines like ICH E6R2, the Pediatric Research Equity Act PREA or PREA, and EU European Union Pediatric Regulation. Example, ensuring adherence to dosing recommendations and real-time deviations reporting in clinical trials for pediatric oncology. So the key takeaway here, monitoring ensures that every aspect of a trial upholds patient safety, scientific validity, and ethical and regulatory standards, making it indispensable for rare disease and pediatric trials. Key monitoring strategies are, as here we have RBM, risk-based monitoring, as description focuses resources on the most critical trial elements to streamline oversight while maintaining patient safety and data quality. Example, prioritizing sites with a history of protocol deviations in a multinational trial for cystic fibrosis. The application here highlights sites or data metrics with elevated risks, allocating monitoring intensity accordingly. Centralized monitoring here, another strategy. The description for it aggregates real-time trial data into centralized systems for remote monitoring and analysis. And here's a summarized diagram on streamlining clinical trial monitoring, as here we have identifying risks, prioritize resources, target oversight, minimize scrutiny, and then enhance trial quality. Example, tracking adverse events AEs across global sites in a trial for a rare lysosomal storage disorder. Benefit identifies patterns, such as delayed laboratory results without requiring frequent on-site visits. On-site monitoring, here description conducting physical visits to ensure compliance and verify at-source data for critical trial aspects. Example, auditing storage conditions for temperature-sensitive biologics at clinical pharmacies during pediatric vaccine trials. Adaptive monitoring, description dynamically modifies monitoring frequency and strategy based on real-time trial developments. Example, increasing site visits after identifying enrollment errors in a pediatric trial for acute lymphoblastic leukemia, ALL. Patient-centric monitoring, description designs monitoring protocols to account for unique conditions, symptoms, and treatment impacts in specific patient populations. Example, observing neurological changes closely in a trial for spinal muscular atrophy SMA as part of symptom-focused monitoring. Key takeaway here, a combination of adaptive, centralized, and risk-based methodologies ensures monitoring efficiency without sacrificing the integrity of rare disease and pediatric trials. Challenges, as any application within clinical research, such application always facing challenges. So challenges in rare disease and pediatric trial monitoring, small patient populations. The challenge, small sample sizes, increase statistical variability and limit generalizability. Solution for that, employ multinational collaborations and real-world data for supplementary analysis. Example, pooling genetic datasets across global sites to support rare neuromuscular disorder trials. Ethical and regulatory considerations. The challenge here, balancing the collection of extensive endpoint data with ethical considerations. Solution for that, enforce strict adherence to independent ethics committee reviews and develop age-specific protocols. Example, gaining assent from adolescents in rare epilepsy studies. And here are arrows going from left to right within a summarized diagram on hinders development of effective therapies for rare conditions. Trial design variability. The challenge, rare diseases often have multiple phenotypes complicating protocol standardization. Solution for that, use adaptive clinical trial designs to accommodate these differences. Example, adapting endpoints based on biomarker results in a progressive mitochondrial disorder trial. Data scarcity. Data scarcity, as the challenge, limited natural history data hampers trial design and endpoint validation. Solution for that, leverage patient registries and historical controls to establish benchmarks. Example, using patient registry data for outcome comparisons in pediatric cystic fibrosis trials. Financial constraints challenge, rare disease trials pose uh, um, high costs due to complex trial logistics and monitoring needs. Solution for that: adapt hybrid monitoring approaches, blending on-site visits with remote oversight. Example: virtual oversight of rural trial sites lowers cost burdens while maintaining quality metrics. Key takeaway: addressing these challenges requires careful planning, incorporating innovative strategies like international partnerships and patient-centric designs to maximize trial viability and impact. Recent advancements in monitoring strategies, wearable technology innovation enables continuous collection of vital signs and patient biometrics. Example: using wearable devices to monitor step count thresholds in pediatric Duchenne muscular dystrophy or dystrophy studies. E-consent systems innovation simplifies and digitizes consent processes, ensuring thorough documentation. Example: retaining caregiver consents electronically across clinical sites during multinational hemophilia trials. A summarized diagram here on wearable technology in health monitoring. Wearable technology: smart watches, fitness trackers, and smart glasses. Data visualization dashboards innovation provide comprehensive views of trial progress and site performance. Example: dashboards highlighting protocol adherence rates across pediatric oncology trial centers. Visual monitoring visits innovation allows remote supervision of off-site trial tasks and facilities. Example: inspecting home administration practices using video logs for enzyme replacement therapies. Patient engagement platforms innovation facilitates direct interaction between caregivers, patients, and trial teams. Example: apps allowing parents to report seizures activity in real time for epileptic pediatric trials. So apps allowing parents to do so, as for an example of patient engagement platforms. Key takeaway here: technological and procedural advancements enable efficient, reliable, and patient-friendly monitoring tailored to rare disease and pediatric trials. Summary tables: as upcoming tables summarize the what we have covered, the material that we have covered through the lecture. Applications for mastery monitoring technique: real-time application. As monitored techniques, we have risk-based monitoring, RBM, centralized monitoring, data visualization, dashboards, wearables, and patient-centric monitoring. Table on key monitoring strategies, strategy description. Example: strategies are risk-based monitoring, RBM, centralized monitoring, on-site monitoring, adaptive monitoring, and patient-centric monitoring. Another table on challenges and solutions, challenge, impact, solution. As challenges are small patient populations, ethical considerations, variability in trial design, data scarcity, and high costs. Another table on recent advancements, advancement benefit. Example: advancements, we have wearable technology, electronic consent, e-consent, electronic consent, data visualization dashboards, virtual monitoring visits, and patient engagement platforms. Table on applications for mastery as monitoring technique, real-world application. Example: monitoring techniques, we have risk-based monitoring, RBM, centralized monitoring, adaptive monitoring, virtual monitoring, and patient engagement tools. Ethical and compliance considerations table as of aspect importance. Example aspects, we have parental consent, data privacy, minimizing participation burden, safety oversight, and protocol compliance. Scenarios, another table about, and here is another table, and this table is about scenarios and the key principle applied for each scenario, key actions, timeline, what to watch out for. Scenarios: we have monitoring adverse events, AEs in pediatric oncology, tracking systems in rare neurological diseases, validation removed consent, validating remote consent in pediatric global trials, and then we have real-time heart monitoring in pediatric congenital trials. So after the scenario of validating remote consent in pediatric global trials, we have real-time heart monitoring in pediatric congenital trials. Then continuing with scenarios, we have adaptive protocols for rare genetic studies and then gathering cross-country data for rare disease trials. Then we will be revising what we have covered through this lecture via some multiple choice questions or MCQs. Question 1. What is one of the primary goals of monitoring rare disease in pediatric clinical trials? Is it A, increasing trial duration, B, ensuring accurate parental consent and patient safety, C, reducing endpoint complexity, or D, eliminating the need for physical monitoring visits? So the most reasonable, accurate answer and applicable answer would be B, as of ensuring accurate parental consent and patient safety, as pediatric and rare disease trials often involve vulnerable participants. Ensuring ethical compliance, example, accurate parental consent, and tracking patient safety are critical to maintaining trial integrity. Question 2, how does centralized monitoring support rare disease trials? Is it A, by eliminating the need for ethical oversight, or B, by remote aggregation and analysis of trial data from multiple locations, B, by prioritizing only on-site monitoring, or D, by focusing exclusively on eligibility criteria? So the most reasonable correct answer is B, as by remote aggregation and analysis of trial data from multiple locations, as B is the answer. So as centralized monitoring allows digital platforms to analyze trial data remotely, making it especially useful for rare disease trials that they rely on pooled multinational data. Question 3, why is adaptive monitoring critical in pediatric clinical trial? Is it A, it lowers trial budgets without oversight, B, it adjusts monitoring intensity in response to real-time developments, or C, it replaces the need for ethical review boards, or D, as of it focuses only on reducing consent complexity? So adaptive monitoring is adaptive, being adaptive, adjustable, adjustive, or adjust. So in this case, B would be the answer, the most reasonable answer, as it adjusts monitoring intensity in response to real-time developments. So B is the answer. As adaptive monitoring increases or decreases oversight based on findings during the trial, example, protocol deviations, ensuring focus remains on areas of highest risk. Question 4, what challenge often hampers rare disease clinical trials? Is it A, simplified monitoring protocols, B, difficulty in recruiting sufficient number of patients, C, low levels of technological integration, or D, lack of wearable technology for monitoring? So here, as of B is the correct answer, difficulty in recruiting a sufficient number of participants. When you have a failure in recruitment, this considered challenge often hampers rare disease clinical trials. And the answer is B, as the rare diseases inherently involve small patient populations, making recruitment challenging or requiring multinational collaborations or pooling collaborations or pooling data to achieve statistical power. Question 5, which recent advancement is particularly beneficial for pediatric trials conducted in remote locations? Is it A, increased reliance on genetic biomarkers, C, 3D B. 3D imaging for endpoint evaluation. C. Virtual monitoring visits for oversight verification. Or D. Full replacement of ethical review system with technology. So it is C is the answer as virtual monitoring visits for off-site verification. So what is the recent advancement and particularly beneficial for pediatric trials conducted in remote conditions or remote locations, as we have here C as the answer, the correct answer, most reasonable answer as well, C, as virtual monitoring visits for off-site verification. So C is the answer, as virtual monitoring reduces logistical burdens and ensures compliance and protocol adherence for participants in remote locations. So a virtual monitoring it reduces logistical burdens and ensures compliance and protocol adherence for participants in remote locations, making it ideal for pediatric trials. And here we come to end of this session, or to the we come to the end of this lecture. Thank you very much and goodbye.